When Reggie Fils-Aime ran Nintendo of America, he once got a meeting with an Amazon executive who asked him for a special deal, essentially massive financial support so Amazon could undercut Walmart on Nintendo game prices. Reggie looked at this man and said, quote, "You know that's illegal, right?" And then he cut off Amazon almost entirely. Nintendo stopped selling to them. That's not a rumor. Reggie told this story himself 2 days ago in a lecture at NYU, and it tells you everything you need to know about how Nintendo used to operate. They didn't just refuse to discount, they would rather lose the biggest retailer on the planet than let someone else discount for them. That was the old Nintendo, and here is the new one. Right now, and I mean right now, Walmart stores across the country are selling first-party Switch 2 games for between $35 and $40. Zelda, Pokemon, Metroid, Donkey Kong, games that launched at $60 or $70 sitting on shelves at prices that Reggie's Nintendo would have never tolerated, and Walmart isn't even the first retailer to do this. About a week ago, we covered here on the channel that Costco was already clearing out the same titles for $30, less than half price. And here's the part that matters: Nintendo isn't stopping them. The company that once almost severed its relationship with Amazon over the idea of discounting is now watching two of the biggest retailers in America independently slash their prices, and Nintendo is doing nothing. Something fundamentally changed, and it's not just about a sale at Walmart. It's about what's happening to Switch 2 game sales behind the scenes. Why Nintendo quietly made digital games cheaper than physical copies, and what that tells you about how the next 12 months of this console is going to play out. So let's jump in and find out what Reggie actually said, because this paints the full picture on how Nintendo used to operate. This was reported just 2 days ago over on Kotaku. Reggie Fils-Aime says Nintendo stopped selling to Amazon after being asked to break the law. A recent lecture at NYU suggests the unstable relationship between the gaming and e-commerce giants dates all the way back to the Nintendo DS. Former Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aime divulged on a conversation between himself and an Amazon executive. Meeting in the late 2000s, Fils-Aime says the e-commerce giant attempted to pressure Nintendo to not just burn relationships with other retailers, but to outright break the law. Yeah, that sounds pretty much on par with what we would expect from early 2000s Amazon. Quote, "Amazon was looking to get bigger into the video game space," said Fils-Aime. Quote, "Amazon's mentality back then is they wanted to have the lowest price out in the marketplace, even lower than Walmart. Essentially, what Amazon wanted was an obscene amount of support, financial support, so they could have the lowest price and beat Walmart. I literally said to the executive, you know that's illegal, right? I can't do that." Nintendo and Amazon have never been on friendly terms. Last year, just as Nintendo was launching the Switch 2, the anticipated home console was nowhere to be seen on the platform as pre-orders cropped up at competing retailers. This comes after a history of first-party games being unavailable on Amazon or pre-orders being unceremoniously canceled. Some speculated the turmoil revolved around third-party sellers and Nintendo themselves being undercut. Seems the bad blood goes back even farther. This fallout dates all the way back to the Nintendo DS era. At the time, the Wii and DS were Nintendo's best-selling hardware in history. Amazon originally sold books, but in the 2000s rapidly expanded with cheaper discounts to become a one-stop shop for almost everything except Nintendo. That is, quote, "Literally, we stopped selling to Amazon," Fils-Aime continued, "and it's because I wasn't going to do something illegal. I wasn't going to do something that would put at risk the relationship we have with other retailers, but it also set the stage to say, look, you're not going to push me around. This is the way we do business, and so that's how over time you build respect." And honestly, he's right. I feel like Reggie, a lot of people have respect for Reggie, and a lot of people right now, when they look back at the golden age of Nintendo, at least in their lifetime, right? Nintendo's been around for like 100 years or more at this point, so like depending on how old you are, the golden age was either the NES, the Super Nintendo, but for many it was during the DS and the Wii era. And I think Reggie does play a big part in that, honestly. Look who came to say hi. Tiger's a little sleepy baby today, but she knows she's gonna get treats. Every time I'm filming a video, she gets treats. Of course, assuming that you guys actually like the video. If you want her to get treats. If you don't want her to get treats, that's totally fine. Let's continue with the video. I want you to really really internalize what Reggie is saying here. Okay, remember that throughout the rest of this video, because this is a company that walked away from billions of dollars in potential Amazon revenue because someone asked them to have lower prices. That was the standard. That was the bar. That is how the old Nintendo operated. Now let me show you what is happening right now. This was posted just yesterday by Nintendo over on Twitter. They said your mileage may vary, but lots of people are reporting insane prices on Switch 2 games in store at Walmart. And then they've included a couple of pictures here, but for example, we have Cyberpunk 2077 for $40, Donkey Kong Bananza $40, Animal Crossing Switch 2 $35, which is crazy because they tried to raise the price to $65, up from $60 for the Animal Crossing version on Switch 1. So now we're down to $35. Kirby Air Riders is $40, Metroid Prime 4 for Switch 2 is $40, Legend ZA, Resident Evil Requiem, and Tears of the Kingdom all are $40 on the Switch 2. Let's take a look at the pictures here. As they say, pics or it didn't happen. Okay, we've got WWE 2K26 over here, Hogwarts Legacy, Sonic Shadow Generations, Star Wars Outlaws right here. We can even see Mario Tennis Fever down here for $45. This game just came out. Mario Bros Wonder with Bella Bell Park, this just came out for the movie release. This was like the Mario game that came out with the movie. I know there's the Galaxy 1 and 2 bundle. That's not a Switch 2 exclusive. The Bella Bell Park is the Switch 2 exclusive. This was like the new Mario experience that was coming out for the movie release, because of course Galaxy 1 and 2 are very old games. This is already $50. Even their beloved Mario, his latest adventure, is already discounted at Walmart, by the way, which, like I said before, we did cover last week that Costco had apparently a clearance sale on a lot of these titles. Lots of you in the comments pointed out that at Costco specifically, when games have a price tag that ends in 97, apparently that means that they are on clearance. They're getting rid of them. I did not know that going into it, but lots of you in the comments have confirmed that. There were multiple of you that said you even worked at Costco or a significant other, whatever. But the biggest like clapback that I got for that was like, oh, well, it's Costco, so like it's a, you know, it's a discount club and you have to pay to go in there, and so like it doesn't really count as a discount because like not everyone can get it. You gotta have a membership, right? Okay, well, here you go. Here's Walmart doing almost as steep of a discount on even more games, and there's no membership required. Here's another picture that was shared by Nintendo. You can see even Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, it looks like we're on sale. Now I know sometimes these games move into different spots on the shelf, so maybe these were misplaced here. Obviously there's two of them, but they are the same price. It's hard to see the little text right here, but even Switch 1 games are on sale, right? Like Breath of the Wild is $40 over here on the Switch 2. Here we have another picture from another user showing a lot of the same prices here. You could see again, Mario Wonder is on sale. Lots of the same culprits, honestly. And if we're being completely 100% honest, the only game that's kind of not on sale right now is Pokemon Pokopia, which is like, let's just sit back and really think about that for a second. Okay, Pokemon Pokopia is the only game not on sale right now on the Switch 2, it seems like, and it's also one of the highest rated games on the Switch 2. So and like maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, okay, but maybe the conclusion that we can draw here is that games that are unique to the console and are well received by the player base don't need to be discounted. Maybe people just buy those games because they're good. And then we've got games like Mario Tennis Fever here that also came out not that long ago and it's already discounted. And what's even crazier is Pokopia is a game key card. Disgusting. Now the reason that the post said your mileage may vary is because this apparently is not happening at every Walmart. It's just happening at some Walmarts. And the way that you can check if your local Walmart actually has these deals is you can go into the Walmart app and look for a game like Breath of the Wild on Switch 2 and set for in-store pickup, and that should show you the actual price at that specific location if you were to go and pick it up in the store. So don't go running out there driving a Walmart seeing if you can get a deal and finding out you can't. Okay, just check from your phone. Gas is like $5 a gallon right now. Okay, don't be wasting the gas to go do that. But the important thing here is that when you're seeing the same pattern reported from enough locations that it starts going viral here on Twitter and gaming outlets start covering it as news, you're past the point of calling this just a one-off or a fluke. And remember what we talked about earlier with Reggie at NYU. Nintendo used to have a policy of just not lowering their prices. So these discounts we're seeing at Walmart and Costco, this is not Nintendo's doing necessarily. Walmart made this this decision all on their own. The largest retailer in America looked at these games on their shelves at the price Nintendo set and decided those prices weren't working. That should make you very curious as to why. Retailers like Walmart and Costco just a week or two ago are sending a very clear message. They are moving these units off their shelves, and in some instances, like potentially with Costco, once it's gone, they might not order more at that price. If a retailer like Walmart has to offer a steep discount on a game like Mario Tennis Fever, which just came out, they're gonna think twice about how many units to order for the next release coming down the pipeline. If these games were selling at full price, if there was demand for these games at the price Nintendo set, they would not have to do these discounts, and the fact that Costco did the same is evidence of that. Okay, this is not a fluke, especially because these discounts come back to back from one another. It's happening at the same time. And here's what else got my attention: the overlap, not just in the timeline but also in the titles. It's almost exactly the same. Kirby Air Riders, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends EA, all of those games were discounted at multiple of these retailers. The same games that Costco couldn't move at 70 bucks are the same games Walmart is now marking down. If it's just one retailer doing a quiet clearance, then okay, that's a deal, but two retailers doing it within 2 weeks on the same titles, that's a pattern, and the cause for that pattern is pretty obvious. So why are two of the biggest retailers in America independently deciding to slash Nintendo's prices? You could speculate, you could say that demand is soft, which it is, we'll talk about that later, or the economy is rough, which it is, everybody knows that, and so maybe people are being careful with their money, which they are, and so all of that might be partly true, but there's a much more specific and much more recent reason, and it's something Nintendo did to themselves. Because remember, the Wii came out at the end of 2006 and the Great Recession was the end of 2007, so you're not going to sit here and get away with the argument that, oh well, the economy is bad right now so nobody's buying Nintendo stuff. It's like, sorry, maybe you're too young to remember 2007, but the Wii was doing phenomenal as the housing market and stock market crashed. People were losing their jobs. I was there, I remember. People didn't have money and the Wii was still doing well. So you're not going to be able to sit here and say, oh, it's just the economy. Yes, that's totally part of it, but to say that's the full picture is just wrong. Because on March 25th 2026, Nintendo made an announcement that didn't get nearly as much attention as it deserved. They announced that going forward, first party Switch 2 digital games on the eShop would be priced lower than their physical retail counterparts. This takes effect starting with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which launches later this month. I need you to think about what that means if you're Walmart, or if you're Costco, or if you're any retailer stocking physical Switch 2 games on your shelves. You've got a product sitting in your store at $60 or $70, and the company that made that product, your supplier, just told every consumer in America that they can get the exact same game cheaper by buying it digitally directly from Nintendo. Your supplier is now your competitor, and they have a permanent price advantage that you can never match without taking a loss, because you have to pay for the physical game card, the shipping, the shelf space, the labor, and they don't. Walmart's response was almost immediate. They started listing upcoming Switch 2 releases, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, Splatoon Raiders, below Nintendo's MSRP at pre-order. I mean, look at this. This is in my cart right now on Walmart's website. This is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. It arrives on May 21st, and you can see already in the cart they've reduced the price by $10. Oh, would you look at that? Splatoon Raiders arrives July 23rd for a nice $50, another $10 off the pre-order. Walmart is matching eShop prices before these games even come out, eating into their own margins just to stay competitive. And if Walmart is willing to cut margins on brand new releases that haven't even launched yet, what do you think they're going to do with older inventory that's been sitting on the shelves for months? You already know the answer. You saw the photos. $35, $40, clear it out and move on. It's collecting dust. And the irony of all of this, the deep, almost poetic irony, is that this is the exact opposite of what Reggie described at NYU. His Nintendo cut off Amazon for asking for lower prices. Today's Nintendo is the one creating the conditions that force retailers to lower them. They didn't just blink, they literally caused the thing they spent 2 decades refusing to allow. But here's where it all comes together. together. And if you've been watching the channel for long enough, then you already know this truth. It's been right there, clear as day in the data, whether you wanted to admit it or not. It's always been obvious. Nintendo didn't make the digital pricing decision because they woke up one morning and felt like undermining their retail partners. Something in the data pushed them there. And when you actually look at the Switch 2 sales numbers, the picture comes into focus pretty dang fast. It's almost like I've been saying this for months. Let's start with the headline everyone likes to talk about. Okay, this was plastered everywhere. The Nintendo fanboys just can't let this one go. Okay, fastest selling console ever. The Switch 2 sold 17.37 million hardware units by December 31st, 2025. That's roughly 7 months after its June 5th launch. Nintendo was so encouraged by the early momentum that they raised their fiscal year forecast from 15 million to 19 million units back in November, and as of March 2026, Circana data showed Switch 2 unit sales tracking 12% ahead of the original Switch at the same 10-month mark. So on the surface, this console is doing fine. It's doing better than fine, but hardware is only half the equation. The other half is software, and that's where things get uncomfortable for Nintendo. Total Switch 2 software sold through December 2025 was 37.93 million units across 17.37 million consoles. If you do the math on that, you get a software attach rate of about 2.18 games per console. For context, the original Switch's lifetime attach rate reached 9.2 games per console. Now, obviously, a console in its first 7 months is going to have a much lower attach rate than one that's been on the market for 8 years. There's fewer games to buy. People are still building their libraries. Backwards compatibility means some buyers are playing Switch 1 games on their new hardware. So I'm not comparing the two numbers as apples to apples, but 2.18 is still notably soft. And the breakdown by title tells you where the problem is. Mario Kart World sold 14.03 million copies. Impressive number until you remember that most Switch 2 units were sold as part of a Mario Kart World bundle. It was like 80% of the units sold or more were Mario Kart World. So a huge chunk of that 14 million isn't someone walking into a store and picking up Mario Kart World and choosing to buy the game. It came in the box. After Mario Kart, there's a steep drop off. Donkey Kong Bananza did 4.25 million. Pokemon Legends ZA Switch 2 edition did 3.89 million physical sales. And then Kirby Air Riders is at like what, 1.7 million or something? Wait a minute. Do those last two titles sound familiar? They should. Kirby Air Riders and Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends ZA are exactly the games that showed up on Costco's clearance shelves at $30 and exactly the same games Walmart is marking down to $40. Those aren't random titles getting discounted. They're the ones that underperformed. That's how this works. This is welcome to business 101, everybody. The holiday season is where this really became visible. We talked about this on the channel ad nauseum. According to the Game Business and Circana tracking data, Switch 2 sales in the United States over November and December 2025 were down approximately 35% compared to what the original Switch did during its first holiday season in 2017. To put that in broader context, November 2025 was the worst month for US console hardware sales in 30 years of Circana data. The entire market was soft, but Nintendo felt it disproportionately. An unnamed senior Nintendo employee told the Game Business that the reasons were a complicated economic landscape, higher price points, and this is a direct quote, the absence of a major Western game. Think about what was available during the original Switch's first holiday. You had Breath of the Wild from launch, and then Super Mario Odyssey landed in late October 2017 as the holiday anchor. Switch 2's holiday lineup was Kirby Air Riders in November, and that was kind of it. There was no Zelda, there was no 3D Mario, and the numbers reflected that. And the Pokemon game that it did get looked like absolute dookie. Everybody agreed, and it was available on the previous console, so you had no reason to pick up a Switch 2 for that. Nintendo's own response confirmed how seriously they took this holiday's shortfall. In March of 2026, Bloomberg reported that Nintendo cut Switch 2 production for the US market by 33%. They dropped their quarterly production target from 6 million units to 4 million units, and Bloomberg's sources were clear that this was driven by slower consumer demand, not supply chain issues. You do not cut production by a third on a console that is selling the way you expected. Physical games are piling up on retailer shelves, especially the mid-tier titles, and I don't know if you've looked at the reviews for a lot of these Switch 2 games, but they're all mid-tier titles. They're all a weak 7 out of 10. It's like like everyone's saying, yeah, it's good. Like if you wanted this specifically, you're gonna like it, but it's fine. So the biggest releases for the back half of this year, Splatoon Raiders, Fire Emblem, maybe the rumored Zelda Ocarina of Time remake, they're gonna need strong opening sales to keep this platform's momentum going. There's no way around it. So what do? You make digital cheaper to juice software sales numbers and engagement. You accept that physical retail is going to take the hit, and you quietly hope that retailers don't react too aggressively, but they're kind of reacting aggressively. 50% off some of these games at Costco or more? That's not a good look. So where does all of this actually lead? Well, in the short term, if you're someone who buys physical Switch 2 games, this is genuinely a good moment for you. Retailers are effectively subsidizing your patience. If you've been holding off on picking up Zelda or Metroid Prime 4 or Pokemon Legends EA, go check the Walmart app. Go check out your local Costco. If you have a membership, these prices are not going to be advertised on TV. You have to go looking for them, and clearance pricing by definition means once it's gone, it's gone. But the longer term picture here is less cheerful if you care about physical games, because here's the cycle that is starting to form, and it honestly started forming a long time ago on other platforms. Nintendo makes digital games cheaper. Retailers respond by slashing physical prices to compete. Physical margins shrink. Retailers order less physical stock. Selection on shelves gets thinner. More consumers default to digital because the physical copies aren't available or aren't available quickly enough. We saw that with Pokemon Pokopia. The headlines were that the game was sold out across the whole world, and it's like, yeah, because they printed like 100 of them. And then Nintendo sees the digital percentage go up even further, and the cycle just continues. We've already seen this play out in other parts of the gaming industry. Physical game sales across the board have been declining for years, but Nintendo was always the holdout. They were the company where physical still mattered, where collectors still had a market, where retailers still devoted serious shelf space to their products. The March 25th digital pricing decision might be the moment where that starts to change. Here's what I would watch for over the next few months. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book launches on May 21st. Splatoon Raiders is in July. Fire Emblem is expected later this year. So if Walmart and Costco are discounting those titles below MSRP at launch or within the first few weeks, that tells you the old pricing model is structurally broken. Gamers saw these $70 and $80 price tags and said no for long enough, and now things are forced to change. It's not just about clearing old inventory at that point. It means retailers have permanently recalibrated what they think physical Nintendo games are worth on their shelves, and that's a very different situation than what we're seeing right now. The Amazon angle is interesting too, because Nintendo and Amazon have been feuding for like 20 years at this point, going all the way back to that meeting Reggie talked about. But the whole basis of that feud was Nintendo's refusal to let anyone mess with their pricing. If Nintendo is losing control of that pricing anyway, if Walmart and Costco are setting their own prices regardless of what Nintendo wants, then the strategic reason to keep Amazon at arm's length starts to erode. And again, we already saw this back during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Remember Cyber Monday when Walmart dropped the price of the Switch 2 by $50 and then every other retailer did the same thing? You think Nintendo wanted them to do that? You think that was Nintendo's decision? No, that was the retailers panicking because these things were not moving at the time of year where they should definitely be moving. No excuses. The Nintendo that Reggie described at NYU was real. It existed. I remember it. And within the context of the Wii and DS era, when hardware was $250, games were $50, 60 at most, and physical was how most people bought their games, that approach made sense. You could hold the line on pricing because the economics supported it. Retailers were happy to stock your products because they sold through at full price. The whole system worked. At $450 a console, $60, $70, or $80 for games, a 2.18 software attach rate, and a market where 70% of your North American customers are already buying digital, the economics just don't support this anymore. And the market is telling Nintendo that in the most direct way possible, not through analyst reports, not through shareholder calls, through price stickers on shelves at Walmart and and Costco on games that Reggie's Nintendo would have never allowed to be sold that low. And I think a big reasoning for that is because these games probably would have been a lot better at their core. Fundamentally, they would have been better quality games back during Reggie's Nintendo anyway. Now the real question is whether or not Nintendo is listening to what's actually happening out in the market, but one thing is absolutely certain: the market is not asking for Nintendo's permission anymore. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, consider dropping a thumbs up on it. It really helps channels like mine a ton. And you might think you're subscribed to the channel because you've seen a couple of my videos, but you're actually not. Double check down below. Now really quick at the very end here, I just want to say that for the next 2.5 weeks I will be on vacation, which means unfortunately I will not be able to upload to this channel. And I feel really bad about that, honestly, because I love making this content for you guys and I'm probably gonna miss a bunch of stuff, but it is what it is. I'm gonna try to enjoy vacation. So to all of you that stick around, I really do appreciate it. But really important, if you're subscribed to the channel, click the bell down there. This will notify you the next time I upload a video, which again might be in a few weeks. So if you don't click that bell, you might miss it.